The Mannin Line with Andy Wint.
Faster Mike, good afternoon. Welcome to Mannin Line today, on till 1, and today we're talking about benefits. With me from Social Security is Victoria McLauchlan, the Director. Sarah Maltby, MHK, is in, representing the Treasury. So anything you want to ask, anything you'd like clarified, then by all means get in touch. Text 166 177, email studio@manxradio.com, WhatsApp 166 177, call 66 1368. Benefits on Mannin Line through till 1. And first of all, it's Faster Mike. Good afternoon, Sarah and Victoria. Hi.
Hello. Faster Mike.
Okay, Sarah, first of all, just tell us, what part does Treasury play in this?
So Social Security is a division within Treasury, so I'm not quite representing the whole of Treasury here today, but I am representing the Social Security division, for which I have delegated responsibility for.
Okay, which means what?
Which means that as an MHK for Douglas South, I was brought into Treasury Department, and within Treasury I was given Social Security as my area of responsibility. So I liaise with the directors within Social Security. We discuss policy and we discuss ideas that we may have, and then we try to bring those back to Treasury for agreement.
Okay, benefits and financial support range across many things: pensions, criminal interest compensation, legal aid, employment, disability employment, and Social Security benefits. So which bit are you responsible for, Victoria?
All of them, really. So the Division of Social Security is quite broad. So all those Social Security benefits, pensions, and also the Job Centre, so the employment support and advice that we give to people who are seeking work or seeking a change in their work as well. And legal aid and criminal injuries, supporting the committee, the Legal Aid Committee as well.
What's the budget?
Total budget for us is around about 280 million per year. So that covers the vast majority of that is state pensions.
Right.
I think people often assume that's a huge amount to be paying out to people that aren't working. Actually, in fact, the vast majority of it comes from the National Insurance Fund and is paying out state pensions to people who've paid in all their working lives.
Okay. Who decides the policy on this? Where does the policy, does that come from DHSC or from Treasury?
From Treasury. So the Treasury Board decides on policy. Our role as civil servants is to listen to the politicians, to offer up ideas and design implementation. And then obviously the Treasury Board, Sarah, along with the Treasury Minister and the other Treasury members, will decide what policy options they want to take forward to Tynwald.
I'm guessing that the bill for this is never going to go down.
I don't think so. I can't see that happening, no.
So where does the discussion come from? Do you present Treasury with a bill, or do they say this is what we have?
We get a budget each year, like every department. Clearly, we're not in control of expenditure on benefits in the same way that we are on, administration costs. If somebody has a right to entitlement to that benefit, then we have to pay that to them. But we do tend to we have a budget which is allocated each year, inflated in line with the benefit rates.
In Treasury, Sarah Maltby,
yeah.
I mean, where is DHSC the biggest drawer on Treasury? Is it the biggest department, take the most money?
I'm not sure what you mean by DH. What do you mean?
DH, well, all this money, 200 and odd, how much, 200 and...
Yeah, so,
sorry, that's just Social Security.
That's just Social Security's budget.
But in terms of other departments, DOI, Enterprise and whatever, is DHSC, does it take the most money out of the central funds from Treasury?
Oh, out of Treasury, full stop. Yes.
So it's the biggest department where that's concerned.
Yeah, and then Social Security sits just under it, I think.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, just trying to get a handle on that. First of all, let's go to Howard. You're live on Mannin Line with Victoria and Sarah. Howard.
Hello, Andy. Hello, Sarah and Victoria.
Hi.
One question, and it seems to be becoming more and more prevalent. The benefit system, both here and in the UK, they seem to be run hand in hand. They are encouraging people not to work. We've said this before, there's whole families who have, over the years, honed the benefit system to their benefit, and they are now the people that won't work, but the ones that are working hard, paying and saving for a pension to ensure their reasonable lifestyle later, are paying in vast sums of money into the Treasury, and eventually they might get something out, but the way the benefit system is working, the pot is going to be very thin or non-existent by the time a lot of these people have come into maturity. Do you not think that the benefit system, the way it is, encourages idleness?
Okay, Sarah Maltby.
Hi, Howard. No, I don't think it encourages idleness. I think the social security net can be made available to people at different stages in their life, as you just said. Some people may dip in and out of the social security security net, whereas other people may be on it for a longer period of time. So, for example, if you're disabled or if you've got long-term sickness and other issues like that. But I don't think it encourages idleness at all. We do try to bring about schemes in which we can encourage and help people back into the workforce. That might include employment skills. So we do try and give people those options when they're ready for it, to be able to build that confidence and self-esteem, to be honest, to get back into the workplace, because it isn't always an easy option for people to do, especially if they have had a period of time away from work. So it's the division certainly does try and encourage and help people back into the workforce if that is appropriate for them.
That fits in with an email I've just got from Mandy, who just said, one of the big bugbears for Manx taxpayers is when people are convicted of benefit fraud are then able to pay back the money they've defrauded from their benefits. Is the taxpayer paying twice? How can this be right? And what disincentive does this provide to anybody who considers making false representations? I'm not saying everybody makes false representations. There's a tiny minority. Mm-hmm. So how do you mitigate that? How do you get around that, Victoria?
Yeah, so I think that, benefit fraud's been in the press quite a lot in the last year or so, because they've had a year of quite significant amount of prosecutions. And yes, it's right that sometimes people have money deducted from their future benefits to go towards their overpayment. And I can understand the argument that some put forward that that's paying twice. Well, actually, they would be getting that money in their pocket anyway. If we were to pay them that money and then ask them to repay it, it's much more burdensome for us to have to chase that money back from them. And it's more efficient to deduct it at source. In addition to having to repay that money through through their future benefits, if people have assets, they might have to pay that back more quickly. We have powers to take other action against them. Also, there's been sentences such as suspended sentences, there's been fines, community service orders. They're quite significant sentences that really should discourage people from taking that action. And knowing that we have a really strong team now investigating benefit fraud on a daily basis, and we have lots of allegations coming in. Since April, I think we've had nearly 80 allegations, and we're investigating the vast majority of those. So it will catch up with people.
Oh, that's interesting. But as Howard said, anecdotally, everybody hears of these sort of mythical people where there's generational misuse of the benefit system. Is the system designed to counter that, to get around that, or what can be done?
Yeah, I think, as you say, it's anecdotally. We don't really see evidence of generational unemployment, which people talk about. What we do see is people, younger people at times with a lack of aspiration, who do move on to the benefit system before moving into work. And our employment services team are really committed to try and move them on as quickly as possible so they don't become complacent and reliant on benefits. It's not a comfortable place to be. And I think as the work that's ongoing to try and increase minimum wage, work pays, and the benefit system is there to protect people that can't work. But I do agree it shouldn't be there as a choice. Okay. And work should be attractive to people.
Howard?
Just another question there, Andy. That Victoria, they said that they don't hear, many of these people, they're not going to go and advertise the fact that they are not working, but they have the black economy and they're doing all sorts of jobs. Now, this, unfortunately, I wholly agree with what the fraud people in Markwell House or whatever they are. come down heavy on them, because they are people that are robbing the genuine working population of the Isle of Man. And that will go from leaving school to the time they die. And they're the ones, the people that need the money. I have no arguments against people that have invalided, disabled or otherwise, or long-term sick. It's the ones that have kidney trouble. The kidney get their backsides out of bed and earn a decent pound. And they're the ones that are in the black economy, and they know the rules and regulations better than a lot of the people that are working in Markwell House. Now, that is not a derogative remark, it's an observation, because I have known one person who's milked the system since the day this particular person, I'm not going to name them, left school. And believe me, this particular person has every penny he or she can get out of it. And that is where the Markwell House, the staff down there should be watching extremely careful. I remember years ago you used to get a green card. And if you didn't take one of those jobs off and on 3 days, 3 cards, you didn't get your dole. Nowadays, they're making applications online for about half a dozen jobs, and that then gives them all the entitlement they need. And it's ridiculous. There's no checks on them. Okay. I've watched this particular person go down there. I said, "What are you doing?" "Oh, I'm just looking for a job. I'm putting in and putting 3 or 4 applications in, and that means he is then entitled to his benefits because he's applied for jobs online."
Okay, Victoria.
Yeah, so our, as I say, our employment services team are looking closely at people who've been on job seekers for longer periods. There's actually a very small number on job seekers, a record low of around about 260 people that are on job seekers allowance, which is the benefit that requires you to look for work. There's lots of jobs about, so if people are on job seekers for a longer period, our advisors are working with them, giving them directions to apply for particular jobs, and they can have their benefit reduced if they don't carry out those directions, if they don't demonstrate that they are actively seeking work and that they really are seeking work. They're applying for jobs that they could reasonably be expected to carry out.
Okay. All right. Thanks, Howard.
Okay. Thanks, Andy.
All right. Good to hear from you. Let's go to David with us now. Hi, David.
Oh, good afternoon, Andy. Good afternoon, ladies. I've got a couple of questions for Victoria, if I may.
Okay.
Victoria, your department put out a press release on Thursday, the 20th of April, about benefit fraud and error. And that was in response to my Freedom of Information request. Can I ask why, when you quoted the figures in there, you cherry-picked a very low year for benefit fraud and error rather than last year, first of all? Secondly, you then say it's not a fair comparator you then go on to compare the Isle of Man rate of benefit fraud and error with that of the UK. Do you think that's a fair comparator? Because sometimes the government like to compare with the UK when it suits them. Other times they run away from the UK and say not a fair comparator. And my third question is, in that Freedom of Information request, I asked how much has been repaid from the outstanding amounts of fraud, and you were unable to identify that amount. Is that still the case?
Okay, thank you, David. So the first one, you were asking about the press release in April. I've got a few things in front of me, but I don't have that exact press release in front of me, I'm afraid. What year did you feel that we reported on? That was.
I'll tell you, the year you did report on was the year 21-22, where it was 550,000 as fraud and error.
As opposed to 22-23, which you feel is higher?
Which is over 800,000.
Okay, I can't answer that directly to say why we reported on that year. What I can say is that we're not shying away from these statistics. Actually, identifying fraud and error is something that we actively do. We report on that internally regularly, so that we can keep an eye on not only how much fraud and error is there, which is obviously a negative thing, but also how much are we identifying, which was actually quite a positive thing. Obviously, we've been affected by lockdowns, which has affected our ability to both undertake that compliance work internally, because we've been rediverting resources to COVID support schemes and cost of living support schemes, but also our inspectors were unable to carry out a lot of investigations during that time. So I think we have to, I suppose, expect that our numbers are going to increase as we go back to normal operations after a rough couple of years. In terms of a comparator to the UK, it was. I would expect it was to really put that data into context. When you look at the amount of fraud and error, it does seem like a high amount, and I think we wanted to have a look at how does that compare. And I don't think it's unusual for us to compare to the UK. But I take your point that on occasion we don't do so, or we look further afield. But on this occasion, we looked at the UK to try and provide some context to people that were reading that release. And in terms of how much has been repaid, no, I don't have that data to hand at the moment. But I think that's probably something that we need to work better at. Keeping an eye on those overpayments and how much are being repaid. We have a finance team within Treasury that undertakes some of that work on our behalf. Our investigations team specifically focus on identifying that fraud and taking it through the court system where that's appropriate. But I take your point that we perhaps could improve our data in terms of reporting on how much of that we've recovered.
So what's underneath all this, David? What's your point about benefit fraud?
No, I like Howard, I like other people who've called in. I think I see time and time again reports in the local media of large amounts of money, and we're not talking a couple of £1,000s. We're talking £40,000-50,000 that people have got away with over a number of years, and you do wonder how on earth. And then when we're told they're going to repay it back at threepence halfpenny a week, one wonders at what point, and this is another point for Victoria, at what point will you write that debt off?
Well, we won't write that debt off unless there's absolutely no way that we're going to get anything back from it. So even if an overpayment is, really, really high and it's going to take many years for us to get it back, we will continue recovering that debt. We won't write off a debt that's being repaid.
I was just going to jump in there, if that's okay. We don't, within Social Security, either decide what the court hands down to the person who is sentenced to benefit fraud. We are just the division that then has to implement what has been decided within the court system. We don't have an influence or a way to... We can express our surprise, but we can't actually influence or change what the court decides. So that is a frustration that believe me, we also feel.
Okay, all right. Thanks, David.
Thank you, Andy. Bye.
Good to hear from you. A note in, could you please, this is from Pete, who just said, could you ask Sarah Maltby if she agrees with David Ashford regarding the onerous 20-page questionnaire relating to disability living allowance? My wife's got a lifelong disability, but has to spend weeks filling out this repeated form, which will never change. Then a doctor has to come to the house to prove that what she said is true. It's humiliating for people with genuine disabilities, genuine people, honest people. Could it be made easier, says Pete?
Before I was elected, I was a carer for a number of years, so you don't need to tell me about what that form was like. Yeah, it is a very long, complex form. However, there is a balance to be brought here, in as much as we've just heard from previous callers about the amount of money that is spent on benefits, and we need to also make sure we're getting it right, because as well as fraud, there is a lot of problems with error, and human error is one of those things where we need to ensure that we are doing our best to try and account for that. So yeah, the form is very long. It is part of the transformation programme that we're actually trying to deliver at the moment, which will see that the application for benefits will be automated, so you go online to do them. So there will be a tell us once approach, rather than asking people to complete and fill in the details of their disability or their conditions over and over again, which we completely understand is humiliating. If
it's the same person with the same disability.
Yeah, and there are ways as well, I think, that the division can decide whether there is some flexibility around that, so how long you have before you have to make your application again. We do see an increase in disability living allowance applications, so we are seeing an increase in that area. So that is an area that before Mr Ashford raised it was something that we were already trying to address and look into to make sure that we are actually doing the best job that we can.
Okay, Mary's with us now. Hi Mary, you're live with Victoria and Sarah.
Hi there. Hi, Victoria, Sarah. I'm the complete opposite of what you've been hearing. I hear, the gentleman who's on a lot, Weekly Howard. regarding benefit fraud, etc. It makes me mad, but in a different way. I have a chronic illness. I have psoriatic arthritis, a Manx illness, apparently. I'm Manx born and bred. I've worked since I was 13, which is now probably illegal. I have apparently I qualify for a full state pension if and when I do get it at 66. I'm 64 now. I had to leave work in 2009. Doctors couldn't tell me what was wrong with me or diagnose what was wrong with me. I then, you know how they say, live well, eat well, stay well, keep active. So I thought, I don't know what's wrong with me. I'm in terrible pain, but I'll keep trying to work. So I worked part-time for 2 years, doing 8 hours a week, which didn't qualify for any NI. So I didn't know that. If I worked for 2 years and didn't earn any NI, I then wouldn't qualify for any benefits. I have never had sickness benefit in my life. The only benefit I've ever received is child benefit. I've worked full-time all my life, and now when I'm chronically ill, I can not ask my government, my country, for any help. My sister had exactly the same illness as me. She gets disability, what's it called? Pardon?
Incapacity benefit?
That's it, incapacity benefit. And so some actuary somewhere found a wonderful loophole where everybody else, I even went in the waiting room at the rheumatologist eventually, I asked, do you all get incapacity benefit? Everybody does, except me. And I don't know what to do. I think it's wrong. It's against the Equalities Act. Anything. And I have had, since 2009, no benefits whatsoever. And thankfully, my husband has earned enough so that it keeps me going. But if I was on my own, I don't know what I'd do. And it was only eventually when I managed to get a private appointment with a rheumatologist who finally diagnosed what was wrong with me. But even after that, I cannot qualify for any benefit. And I am furious when I see all these fraudsters, all these, people, and I have a full NI contributions to qualify for a full state pension if I live long enough. Yeah, I cannot get incapacity benefits. That's what, £90 a week I've missed out over 10, 11 years?
Yeah.
And I'm Manx and worked all my life.
Yeah. Thank you, Mary, for sharing your situation with us, and I'm sorry it's been so difficult for you. It's right. What you're saying is correct. There's two routes to support for people that are incapable of work. One being the contribution-based incapacity benefit, and the test of that looks at your national insurance contributions in the 2 tax years prior to the year in which you fall ill and incapable of work. So what's happened there, I think, is because you've gone part-time for those 2 years, you've not met the contribution conditions for incapacity when you have claimed it. Whereas when you went part-time, you probably did meet those conditions. And then the other route to support for people incapable of work is income support. So when you said there, you're concerned that if you didn't have a partner, husband that was working, what would you do? There would be an income-related route for you now, which would mean you would get help with your kind of general living costs and housing costs, etc. if you didn't have another person working in the household. Sorry, did I speak over you there?
Sorry, no, I spoke over you. I'm sorry.
No,
I'm disenfranchised compared to every other patient the rheumatologist sees. I am the only one who doesn't receive any benefit.
I think the question is, why did she fall through the net? Is it equitable that she's fallen through the net, and is there any remedy to it?
There's no remedy to it now, in that it was in 2009. When I'm looking at it now, when you went down to 8 hours a week, if you'd have known at the time, I'm sure you would have done something different.
I would have done it, absolutely.
But we're a long way past that now, and there isn't.
Applies, doesn't it? It still applies. Anybody who did this I'm warning anybody else. Because it still applies, doesn't it?
It's those contribution conditions still apply. Yeah, what we can do is if people have to go to a small number of hours per week, they can claim incapacity benefit and then apply for what we call permitted work, which is basically telling us, I'm on incapacity benefit, I'm incapable of work, but I can do a small number of hours. So you can get your incapacity benefit and get those small number of hours. But if you don't know that, then you don't know, do you? So you wouldn't.
I just thought I was keeping active and doing all the right things, and working.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, the thing is, is that, Mary, what you didn't have was information. You didn't. Nobody told you, look, Mary, you need to do this and you need to do that. And you've had umpteen years of.
Yeah, my sister worked for the government, and she had wonderful support, from the human resources officer, and she was also diagnosed what was wrong with her while she was still in work, whereas I wasn't. Mm-hmm. So, that's the difference. Yeah. And I just find it crazy that I am disenfranchised like this. It makes me boiling mad. And, I don't... It's a good idea. Bring, any students who go to university, come back over, don't have to pay any NI for so many years. And I'm thinking, hello? I've paid you 35 years' worth.
Okay. Sarah Maltby, what's the politician's view?
Thank you, Mary, for calling in. I can completely understand your frustration, and like I said, the fact that you didn't have that awareness or that information, and the reason why Victoria and I sat here today, this isn't. I think this is the first time that Social Security has done a Mannin Line call-in, so we are trying to raise awareness of the options that are there for people. I really would encourage people, if you're not too sure, to go to Markwell House. It's open Monday to Friday, 9 till 1. There's a phone number, there's an email address. Please reach out to us and ask us for help, because if you don't ask, you don't know, and I'm really, really sorry that doesn't help you.
Well, Mary,
right
yeah, I'm sorry. I mean, obviously there's nothing anybody can do, and you've been dealt a rotten hand of cards.
I have.
I would also just say, just before you go, Mary, when you just mentioned about the young people that are coming to the Isle of Man, if they haven't paid income national insurance, they will also not be eligible for national insurance benefits. So that you do
get the same benefits, but they were allowed a holiday.
You still need to be. There are contribution-based benefits and non-contribution-based benefits. So I think it's one of those myths. I think that needs just to be sometimes.
Mary, we all sympathise. I appreciate your call. All right, good to hear from you. There's somebody who's certainly making the most of things, but really, information is key with everything. So, bluntly, if you do change your method of working and the amount of hours you work, you need to get some advice on how it's going to affect your the provision for benefits in the future. Yes, definitely. Victoria?
Yes, definitely.
Okay, here's, let me see, we've got Carol with us now. Hi, Carol.
Hello.
Hi.
Hello, who am I speaking to? Sarah?
Yeah.
Hi, Carol.
Hello, Sarah. I would like to know, how come I receive income support? Last year, in the tax year, I got £159 income support from the Social Security, telling me I'm not having enough coming in to live off, and the tax man bills me for £207. Where's the logic in that?
Carol, were you receiving any other income during that period?
No, just my old age pension.
Okay, so it's your pension that's being taxed?
Yeah. So my old age pension, and I get a little private pension, right? But why is one government department telling you you're not getting enough to live on, and another government department is taking not only that off you, but extra off you?
Okay, so it's probably a tax question, really, which I'm not a tax specialist at all. But you'll know that the tax thresholds for the point at which you have to pay tax are set in stone. They're not relevant to someone's circumstances. So whatever, after a certain amount of income, you have to pay tax. How that Whereas when you look at your income support, it's looking at your specific circumstances. So somebody next to you might have an income lower than you and not get income support, but because of your circumstances, you do get it. So that doesn't really answer your question, but in terms of, it does seem odd, doesn't it, that in one part of Treasury is paying you money and the other is taking it off you. But it's because of the way the tax and the social security systems are structured, in that the social security system is much more personalised in terms of assessing what your needs are. The tax system, if you have income of over this level, you get taxed irrespective of what your circumstances are, other than some kind of allowances that they have as well.
Okay, who should she talk to? Can she go and have that explained face to face from anybody, tax office? Or
yeah, I mean the tax office can talk her through, what income has been taxed and at what rate, etc. The taxable status of certain benefits is a policy question.
Okay, all right, Carol. Thanks for that.
It's not logical. It's just not logical.
All right. Thanks for that, Carol. It's good to hear from you today. I want to go to Frank's with us now. Hi, Frank.
Hi, everybody. Hi, Andy.
Hi.
Yes, this is very confusing for me, and I'd like some advice on it, please. I'm disabled, and I have been disabled for many years, and I'm now 87. I live with my wife, who's 83. She is now crippled. She has scoliosis. She's lost the use of her right arm, and she can't walk. She'd had one hip replaced, and the other one is gone. So she's in a terrible state, and yet she's my carer, and she looks after me because I can't do anything. So I applied 2 weeks ago. I thought I'd phone up and see if I could get a disability allowance for my wife. And I was told, quite frankly, I'm sorry, your wife has to be ill before she's 65 before you can get any disability allowance. How stupid is that? How the hell can any human being know he's going to be ill before he is or she is? Can you explain to me why?
Yeah, so there's two disability benefits. One is available to people prior to state pension age, which is disability living allowance, and one is available after state pension age, which is attendance allowance. The disability living allowance has both a mobility and a care component, so you can get an amount towards your care needs and an amount towards your mobility needs. Attendance allowance, which is awarded when people become disabled after 65 or state pension age, doesn't have a mobility component. So what I think's happened here is your wife's disability is really related to mobility. Is that right, as opposed to needs for care?
Well, both really. She's
Okay.
difficult. She can't walk, but she can't walk many yards.
Okay, and have you made an application, or did you just get some initial advice?
I'd phoned up and asked for a form or whatever I had to fill in or whatever, and I was told, I'm sorry, no, she can't have anything unless she was ill before she was 65.
Okay, so sorry, Frank, that's not entirely true. The advice that you've been given there doesn't sound correct to me. In terms of if you've become disabled after 65, you still can get help with this with your disability, but it is related to care needs as opposed to mobility. So it might have been that the person has misunderstood your situation and they thought that there was just mobility needs, but there may be that she can still get attendance allowance, which is specifically to help her with her care needs.
So have you applied, Frank, or just got advice?
No, I've just got advice. I just wondered. I asked for a form to fill in whatever it was. We need somebody to come and see us.
We can arrange that. We can arrange that, no problem. If you want to leave your details just offline here, and I can take them away today and get somebody else to see.
Do you mind if we take your details, Frank, and give them to Victoria?
Yeah, sure. No
okay, that's fine.
All right, good to hear from you. Thanks for that. And thanks. I'm in the same boat as Mary, says Karen as well, regarding that that particular issue with not paying NI for 2 years because of only doing a certain number of hours. Well, we're live with talking social security benefits today, and we're absolutely busy. We're stacked out today. Thanks for your calls and emails. Back in just a few moments' time with Sarah Maltby and Victoria McLauchlan.
Roses are blooming at Ramsey Garden Centre, and with a variety of hanging baskets, summer bedding, fruit and ornamental trees, plus a full range of garden essentials, there's never been a better time to visit Ramsey Garden Centre. Open 7 days a week.
If you're an excellent team player with the ability to work with paid and volunteer staff and love to be hands-on, St John Ambulance is recruiting for a commercial training manager. The successful candidate will work closely with the customer, St John trainers and students, and will plan the training calendar, manage trainer allocation and deliver courses when required. If you have a recognised trainer and assessor qualification and would like more information, including a full job description, then email ceo@sja.org.im.
Love the style, love the savings at Paradise & Gel. New ideas, new looks and incredible reductions too, because the summer sale is on now. Save up to 30% on the latest collections and our best sellers. Sofas, dining ranges, bedroom and much more. The Paradise & Gel summer sale at Michael Street Peel. On now. Find a new look you'll love at Paradise & Gel.
Facebook. It's a great way to keep informed and keep in touch. And for businesses, you want to see high numbers of good reviews? Well, at IM1 Car Centre, we'd like to thank our customers for their generous and kind comments, because we're proud to say that IM1 Car Centre has over 370 5-star reviews on Facebook. Customers know that we price our cars fairly, so visit us today on Facebook or at Domain Road, Douglas. IM1 Car Centre, the only island dealer with over 370 5-star customer reviews on Facebook.
It's time to find out who's the daddy with Tel Skips and your nation station Manx Radio.
Sunday is Father's Day, and to celebrate you could win your dad a £200 voucher to spend at 1886. Check out the 2 photos on our Facebook page this weekend. If you can guess who the famous fathers are, send your name and the dad's name to 166 177, starting with the word dad. Then on Monday in Manx Radio Breakfast, we'll pick a winner.
And if you need a skip for home or garden, remember, Tells are the daddy. Call 677 137 or search him online.
The Mannin Line, daily interaction, debate and exchange of ideas. Broadcast on Manx Radio from midday till 1, Monday to Friday.
We're talking social security benefits today. Victoria McLauchlan, the director, and Sarah Maltby, MHK Treasury representative. And Bonzo, hi, you're live.
Hi, yes, and hopefully not having John switch off because I'm on again. Yeah, this isn't the entertaining bit of Mannin Line. This is the informative bit. We've been hearing, obviously, from quite a few of the callers about the fact that they fall through the net, and the system is hugely complicated and has huge, what they term conditionalities to it. So although that might appease those who think, oh, everything has to be very severe and they have to have 3 green cards, and if they don't get a job then they should be cast out into the wilderness of poverty or something like that, you find that those people who have very complex conditions end up being taxed at one end whilst being provided with benefits at the other, and there are all sorts of legalistic complexities to them to gain access to benefits. I mean, one figure we don't readily hear is actually how much in the way of benefits actually go unclaimed as entitled. But this is a hugely complicated system which requires a vast amount of resources in order to administer. So has the department considered researching and indeed trialling the idea of universal basic income?
Okay, so I think in terms of any deep research into universal basic income in the Isle of Man, I'd have to say we haven't done that piece of work.
What's the theory behind universal basic income?
I think the theory is that if you give every citizen in society a certain amount of income, which is enough for them to live a relatively modest life, that will motivate people to go out and earn more and add to that, but it protects everybody. And I think, sorry, Bonzo, you probably know more about it than I do, but would that be your understanding of it as well?
Yeah. That's a pretty accurate assessment. Of course, you'd have to have some additionals for people who have long-term issues, disabilities and such like, where they would usually get an additional amount anyway in a conditional benefit system. But yeah, certainly that there would be a basic amount of money that people had, which allowed them to exist, and then would allow them to go to whichever work might be available, or indeed volunteering or such like. It allows people that labour flexibility that a lot of the labour market craves right now, because the world of work has changed utterly since the establishment of these kind of benefit systems in the 40s and the 50s. And they simply haven't kept up with them. And that kind of unconditional but basic floor benefit would allow the kind of labour flexibility that people that the labour market wants. And I think with AI coming along, that's going to hollow out a fairly large chunk of a reasonably well-paid workforce who are going to find themselves in a position where they need to be more flexible, and the benefits system wouldn't allow them to be like that.
Thank you, Victoria.
Yeah, so going back to what you said initially about the kind of complexity of the system, I think it's something that Sarah and I talk about quite regularly, is trying to make sure that when we do bring about policy changes, is there an opportunity to simplify? The difficulty and the tension we find is that simplicity doesn't always equal fairness. And when we try and make something simple, it's often that there often are more winners and losers than there are when you try to personalise it. So it's an ongoing challenge, I think, isn't it?
Yeah, absolutely. It's one of the conversations that we have the most, I think, is when constituents or members of the public contact me and they raise an issue with me, and I straight away I put it on our agenda to talk about in our political update meetings, and it's what can we do about this, how can we tackle it, and we really do put serious consideration into any comments that are raised in those meetings, because it is so important that we do try to make sure that the social security net is fit for purpose. But Victoria is right, there is a tension there. Trying to get it right is definitely not as easy as what you might think it is. Social security does provide a huge and vast amount of benefits and support and allowances. I mean, you know, we have also, as well as a division, had the cost of living crisis response that we had to manage. So, you know, the division really is pulled from pillar to post sometimes, and it's trying to make sure that the people who are not the most vulnerable within our society are looked after as best as we can.
OK, I'll play devil's advocate here, because many people will say bureaucrats and civil servants love complexity because it keeps them in work. So, and again, if people say that, and people say, look, it doesn't need to be complex, it doesn't need to be that labyrinthine, it's not like walking into Hampton Court Maze, surely it's simple. People pay national insurance and income tax, and those who are entitled get benefits. Why does it appear sometimes to be overcomplicated?
Can I just say something as well on that? You know, over the last couple of years, there has been occasions where we have stripped back and we have looked at regulations and we have made changes, but we have felt actually that way of doing things is out of date now. We have got a couple of examples. I tried to share these different things, and you would have seen it if you follow Tim Wood, that we have tried to strip back on some of the complexities because it just doesn't make sense anymore. So, you know, the last 2 years have been an absolute learning curve, I can tell you that. And I've, you know, while I have the opportunity, I do want to just sort of thank Victoria and the team, because they have listened to me and they do try to be as proactive as they can to try and support me with the decisions I'd like them to explore. But, you know, we have had some positives. We have stripped back in some of the areas that really have been unnecessary, and actually I hope that has helped people. It might not help a huge amount of people, but you know, if it helps a few people, then that is what that's my intention.
Okay, Bonzo.
Well, I think that's progress in the right direction, but I think still that's nibbling at the edges a bit, really, when what the system needs is much more of an orientation towards the needs of those who are using it, rather than the cost of it, which is of course why the Social Security Division was moved from Department of Health and Social Care into Treasury.
OK, all right, Bonzo, we appreciate that. Thanks for being with us today. The whole point of, if you like, a welfare state is to make sure that the population's happy and well catered for. I mean, I think it was it the Beveridge report in England was in the 1940s, and there were 5 giants that they wanted to slay: want, disease, ignorance, squalor, and idleness. That's what they wanted to get rid of, and that's what, if you like, a welfare state is about. In your opinion, Victoria, are we on the right road?
Yeah, I think we are, and I think it's easy to say that actually introducing something very simple would be better, because everyone would understand their entitlements. But if we had something very simple, let's say we had a universal basic income and every citizen in the Isle of Man got, I don't know, £500 a week. For some people, they don't need that. They're already in very, very well-paid jobs. So we're finding £500 a week for people that don't need it. And then for some people, actually, £500 isn't enough. They're in a nursing home, for example. So before you know it, it would become very complicated to add to that universal basic income, and you'd be giving money to people who don't necessarily need it. Now, that's not for me to decide. That's a political hypothetical question. But I think the point that I would make is it would become complicated straight away, because something that suits one person never suits the person next door. And that's where the complexity comes from.
All right, appreciate that. We're live talking about social security benefits today.
Everything is Delilicious at the newly opened Woodburn Deli on Dalton Street in Douglas, just around the corner from the terrace. Whether you want to treat yourself to something tasty, from meats, cheeses and charcuterie, to pies, bakery products and coffee, or perhaps you're looking for a lovely gift, then choose Woodburn Deli for a wide range of hand-selected products you won't find anywhere else, including chocolates, drinks and hampers. Woodburn Deli. Fine foods and gifts. Open 7 days a week.
Every drop is precious. Water. So easy to take it for granted, isn't it? Our reservoirs supply the needs of our island, but with the effects of climate change, that's becoming more challenging every year. Manx water is the only water we have, so we need to make every drop count by using it wisely, at home, in the garden and in general. Visit manxutilities.im to find out how you can begin smarter living, to lower energy bills and reduce your impact on our island environment.
You can get the best of everything, and the price is just as nice. Oh, I'm so glad we went to Pacesetter. The perfect shower, some great tiles, all the accessories we needed. They had it all. Amazing ranges from traditional to modern, many exclusive to Pacesetter. Get your bathroom on song. Visit the Pacesetter showrooms at Harris Terrace and Spring Valley.
You can get the best of everything, where the price is twice as nice.
Nearly as good as me.
Whether you like live music, theatre, film, or running around in circles pretending to be a superhero, you'll love Villa Gaiety. With Dragon's Castle Play Area, Broadway Cinema, Gaiety Theatre and the Villa Marina. Check out the upcoming events at villagaiety.com or call 600 555. Villa Gaiety, the island's premier entertainment venue.
The Mannin Line with Andy Wint.
We're talking social security benefits today. Alan's with us now. Hello, Alan.
Hi, Andy, Victoria and Sarah.
Hello, Alan.
Just a query about the benefit fraud that you were talking about before. You said that when they caught these people, the money's taken from source. So if you're taking, say, I don't know, £5-10 a week for over a year or so, would that they're going to be that much money down? Would that not mean that they didn't need that in the first place, or would they just go and claim something else to make that money back up again?
Yeah, so they can't claim anything else to make that up again. It's more likely to be sort of £20-24 a week that it's deducted at, rather than £5-10. And you're right, that does mean that that's money that we've assessed them as needing, but they're not getting it in their hands because they're having to use it to repay debt. So, but there's certainly not another benefit that they can claim to make that up, because they're treated as if they have that money, but they're using it to repay debt.
What my query is, if that money's being taken away week by week, would that not imply that they didn't need that in the first place if they can still manage?
Well, I guess you could say they've had to reprioritise their spending. They've had to spend less on something else because they've had that deduction from their benefits.
OK, all right. Alan, sorry about that. We have to dash on because John's with us now. Hello, John.
Oh, hi, Andy. Hi, Victoria and Sarah.
Hello, John.
Hi. Just a quick one.
Mm-hmm.
Let's say, for example, I started work at the age of 15. Next year I'm 55. Could it be the case I could retire at the age of 55, leave the island, and then come back at 67 and claim a pension? I have paid enough in. I think I've qualified now for 40 years service. I'm paying in constantly, you know.
Yeah. Yeah, that's right. You could. You've paid into that, and that's built up entitlement to an Isle of Man Manx state pension. Whether you come back to the island or you stay in the UK, you can still claim that pension from us. If you've ever worked in the UK now, you can also claim a pension from the UK on top of that. But yeah, whether you return to the island or you stay living elsewhere, you've got entitlement to that. You've paid into it, and you can get it out.
Yeah. Oh, good stuff. OK, thank you very much.
All right, thanks for that. Somebody's got his life worked out as well. We're absolutely stacked with queries and questions. So I'll just ask you, will you come back before Christmas?
Yes.
Yeah, no problem.
That's good. And also, I understand there's some transformation project that you're on within Social Security. What's happening?
Yeah, so what we're doing is we're building online applications for the benefits and a secure communications channel, so someone can effectively manage their claim online. So we're about to pilot the online application for incapacity benefit next week, actually to get some customer feedback on how it is as a user. But the idea of, I just wanted to link that to what I think Bonzo was saying earlier on about the complexity of the system. As we're building these online application forms, we're trying to simplify where we can. So obviously building an online application form for something very complex is more, it's going to take longer and cost more than building something simpler. So it's an opportunity for us to review any of those pockets of complexity that just don't seem appropriate, and make that the process simpler for the customer, but also simpler for our staff and cheaper in terms of the ease of administration.
Okay. Sarah?
Yeah, so just the points that have been made today have all been well made, and thank you very much for everybody's contributions. It really is very welcome to hear these things, and please do get in touch with us if you have any other questions. This isn't just coming on the Mannin Line and then you don't hear from us again. I'm really keen to ensure that while I have delegation for the Social Security Division, that I'm listening.
Okay. Does everything happen at Markwell House, Victoria? Is that where everything happens?
That's our base. That's where most of our staff are based, and where we have a customer counter open 9 till 1 Monday to Friday. But we also have an office in Ramsey that's open on Tuesdays. I think it's Tuesdays or Thursdays. And we also have an outreach service. So our staff go out to, for example, the wellbeing centres, visit people in their own homes, visit people at hospital and nursing homes. So everybody should be able to get in touch with us, whether they can come into the office or not. We can send people out to see them.
Okay. Thanks, Victoria McLauchlan today. Thank you. And also thanks to Sarah Maltby.
Thank you very much. Thanks for having us.
Thank you.
That's it for Mannin Line today. We're back tomorrow with another open line. Text, email, call on WhatsApp. Sorry we didn't get through all the questions today. Very busy. Open line tomorrow. On Monday, Tim Johnson, MHK, Minister for Enterprises, here with Mark Lewin, the Chief Exec. We're talking about exactly what Enterprise does, what it aims to do, and where you fit in. Thanks to Howie Queen on the phones today. It's a gorgeous day, so make the most of it.
WINT